Okay, ready? All right, so we are.
I make a motion at 10:08 that we come out of executive session where no action was taken.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Obermeyer,
Yes.
Bowman,
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes.
Burgess,
Yes.
Groves.
Yes. Okay. With that, we will adjourn as Board of Equalization and come back in as Board of Commissioners. All right, Kurt is still waiting to hear back, I believe. All right, good. Okay, so let's go ahead and take up, discuss and act on zoning regulations.
Okay, I can start off real quick. I sent out another draft to you guys. It's the same revised draft, but updated a couple things, and we'll get into that. I just want to clarify that this effort is not meant to disregard what the planning commission, well, the zoning board, either way, has done, or to disrespect the process in any way. It's just a necessary technical refinement of what was put before us in their proposal. The goal is to simplify the language, not to change the intent. Ensure that the regulations are clearer, more defensible, and easier for the county staff to actually administer. The refinements are based on the review from Marvin Planning and Consulting. Their recommendations flagged that the previous proposal was overly broad and overly burdensome. So to ensure the regulations are legally sound and do not overwhelm our staff with administrative hurdles, as they were described, the document has been streamlined to be more efficient in the new format. Since the last meeting, several specific refinements have been integrated into the revised draft to ensure that it is ready and aligns more closely with the document and the concerns that we have heard previously. And a few of those are in alignment with the Planning Commission's original recommendation. The timing for financial guarantees has been moved up to prior to the commencement of construction, as it was on the previous proposal, rather than allowing a 5-year grace period. Lancaster does something like 15, but I don't think that's necessary for York County. Closing the regulatory gap. So class 2, I redefined it as mid-scale, just so it's 100 kilowatts to 1 megawatt. It just covers that whole thing, regardless of whether or not it's a community-based one, or shared, I should say. Decommissioning security is limited to surety bonds and letters of credit. This is something that I've talked about with the other commissioners. That will provide the county with 100% of the financial protection for decommissioning without forcing the treasurer's office to manage an escrow account or cash. And then also the language will prohibit credits for salvage value. That's another thing I talked about with Daniel. So the bond must cover 100% cost of removal, ensuring that the county will not be left with any cost. The first responder training frequency has been increased to a minimum of every 5 years. Hopefully it would be 2 years or something closer, but it was 10 years before. And there will be a requirement for erosion control with native salt-tolerant vegetative cover to ensure stabilization and runoff issues are not an issue. This is necessary because this 5-page draft represents significant improvement over the 23-page proposal that we received from the Planning Commission. It accomplishes the same tasks and more effectively by removing the redundancies that were found in that original draft. According to the recommendations, the system was reduced from 4 classes to 3 to simplify it. The draft specifically states that battery energy storage systems are not allowed with a conditional use permit for specifically solar. It does not include battery energy. That's something that we've heard in concerns a lot. That would be a full different thing we'll have to tackle at some other time. The definitions have been streamlined. the mess has sort of been cleared by removing unused words and focusing just on words that are actually in the article and necessary. So that's shortened by several pages. Most importantly, there's a general provision section which creates universal standards for the noise and safety for the larger projects, rather than repeating them under every class. That saved at least 10 pages. And a requirement was added for a new conditional use permit for any repowering of equipment. Class 1 has been simplified for individual small systems because we were overreaching. There's no reason to overreach on the small ones. That's not the controversial part. And there's a added one for catastrophic events. We've heard about tornadoes and hailstorms, that they must provide a report on what they're going to do about it and how they're going to fix and move forward within 30 days. So the proposal has already gone through the zoning committee twice, and each time it has come back to us essentially unchanged. So while the work the zoning committee has put into reviewing it is appreciated, it's important for the board to take ownership of the decision now. And the main decision we have to make is setbacks. So it's important to be clear about it that the current recommendations of 1/2 mile or 2,640 feet is not a regulation. It's meant to be a ban. The professional recommendations and standards are usually in that 100 to 300 foot range. However, I recommended 500 feet on the last one as a sort of a compromise, but we've heard from the other board members, and there's been a proposed increase to 660 feet as sort of a middle ground that hopefully we could come to an agreement on somewhere around there. Furthermore, the board should be aware of the loss of local revenue when considering very extreme buffers. Our school districts stand to benefit from the nameplate capacity tax. So as setbacks increase, the usable acreage decreases and will mean that the larger setback, the smaller the actual benefit to our community and our local taxpayers will be. So basically, it's important for the board to discuss whether the goal is to find a middle ground with an actual rational basis, as we've heard, or if the intent is to just basically remain closed for business with some sort of ban. So, it would be, I would like to discuss the setback because that's the decision we have to make. And I would recommend, I think I'd be willing to compromise and move mine up from the 500 if that's necessary.
Well, if we're going to talk about setbacks, would you be willing to move feedlots, confinement buildings to that 660 as well?
That has like
It has,
nothing to do with what we're talking about.
it has exactly everything to do.
Because we already have.
You want to sit up here and pick winners and losers based off what you feel are rational reasoning. Everyone wants to come back with these feedlots, these confinement buildings as, well, it's the odor footprint, it's the odor footprint, it's the odor footprint. Odor is a sensory function, is it not? Can we at least agree on that?
Yeah.
What is sight?
Sight's also
It is also a sensory function.
Indeed.
I like the setbacks that the zoning board has provided to us because it keeps them equal. We sat here and listened to OPPD and a bunch of their people talk about solar farms being agriculture. Okay, they're agriculture, they're commercial agriculture. Let's treat them exactly like we treat all the other commercial agriculture in this county. Let's not pick winners and losers based on, I don't know why we would even pick winners and losers on this issue. There is no winners.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. We shouldn't be messing with picking and choosing which businesses
But
should be allowed.
you are
So
by changing the setbacks of what is commercial in one class versus what is commercial in what actually follows our comp plan, which this does not.
do you have any specifics on that?
Our comp plan clearly states that we should not be removing farm ground for anything other than livestock or farming practices. Solar does not fit our comp plan. Livestock does, but yet we're not willing to talk about those setbacks. So I'm sorry, Joe, I'm just,
Well, if-
we're,
If you want to bring forward like another change at another time for an amendment on different zoning that's already been passed, then that's like something you could do. But right now, we're talking about the solar zoning, not feedlots. So
it's one and the same. It's the exact same thing.
I don't see the same sort of consequences. I guess there's not like the
I
same
see way
risk.
more consequences with a solar farm getting hit by a hailstorm than I do a feedlot or a chicken barn getting hit with a hailstorm.
I mean, you saw what's happened with Scotts Bluff, right? With their solar thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that got hit by the hailstorm, and so I went and I looked this up.
So what are the soil reports telling us from that? But we don't know those. Do we?
I don't know the soil reports. I do know that they recycled something like, I think it was 85 or 90% of the solar panels that were damaged, and then they had it up and running in 2 months. So
Sweet. What are the long-term effects? We don't know. any
we'll
of that.
see. We'll see, man. I guess tornadoes and hailstorms, they leave damage to everything. So
Correct. But we know the risks associated with damage of a hailstorm or a tornado to livestock containments. Don't even get me started on the battery side of it if we ever go down that road.
I'm not trying to get started on it. You're correct.
And this huge windfall of tax money that everyone assumes we're getting. Are we?
Not if we pass a half-mile setback. There will not be.
I
there will
don't
not
see
be
it anyways. I mean, we want to talk about all this money that's going to come from the construction. It's a flash in the pan. I guarantee a lot of that money that we're going to see will also be spent in our jails. It seems like anytime we have any of these big projects, we have an uptick in issues with crime in our communities as well, which is a concern of mine. I don't want to be closed for business, and I'm not against solar. I'm against solar of this size replacing a known productive farm ground that does bring so much already to this county.
I think that's, similar to a lot of the concerns we've heard. And that's certainly why I think the 1% thing, I'm not opposed to that at all, the 1% cap on it. I do think that with a half-mile setback, regardless of what you might say about not wanting to be closed for business, we are signaling that we are closed for business. If it's going to be like this for one business, why would it not be like that for any other thing that someone wants to do on agricultural land?
I think that's the key that I have issue with is on agricultural land.
Yes.
And so that brings in some of my major reservations in that we're looking at regulations to completely redefine what it means to have agricultural land. And so when we do that, we have to be very careful in what we're allowing on those lands, because whatever regulations we implement is going to affect a very significant amount of land in York County. And so it's very important that whatever we put in effect for agriculturally zoned land is the right thing for York County. And it's been brought up multiple times that what the zoning board has proposed is a ban. And I cannot agree with that, because if we wanted to ban it, we would propose a
Well, that's what I'm saying is I think you should, if you want to ban it, you should just ban it.
right, exactly, and I would be all for that. But we've heard from constituents that they want us to be able to allow solar in our county. We have to represent those people as well as those that don't want it. And so we have to come up with something that is a middle ground. So it's been said that the proposals that the Planning and Zoning Board have proposed are a ban. And I don't agree with that, because we are saying we will allow solar in York County, but there's certain places we won't allow it. And that's no different than any zoning, any zoning. I mean, okay, let's take the 600 block of Delaware Avenue. If those homeowners all grouped together and said, hey, you know what? We want to sell to a steel foundry. The city of York would not allow that because of zoning. So what is the difference of out in the county that currently is zoned agriculture for crop and livestock production, which directly out of page 63 in our comp plan says that York County should continue to be dominated by agriculture production, specifically crop and livestock production. Loss of prime cropland to non-crop uses should be avoided as much as possible. So we have to, this is the document that all of our decisions have to be based on currently. We are in the process of rewriting it, but today, this is the document that's in effect. So I don't see how we can say that we are allowing solar in certain places and call that a ban. I don't prescribe to that
Well, I don't
line
think,
of thinking.
I don't know if that's an accurate characterization. I think it's more like we're just not allowing a certain size of solar thing. It's not that we don't allow it in certain places. It's just it's just the setbacks on the large ones make it so you can't build a project like that. That's all it
In
is.
certain places. There's certain places where you could build,
Like if you had a
large.
large enough
Mhm.
acreage.
right. So we are allowing it in certain places. In certain places, we're not allowing it
Half-mile setback.
from non-participating dwellings.
It is the dwelling, that's the important one.
So that's where I just, that's jumbling around in my thoughts. You mentioned that setbacks are the one thing that we have to consider. It is a very big thing that we have to consider, but there are multiple things that we do need to consider as well. And so it is a fairly, to me, it's a lot bigger than just setbacks. Property rights have been brought up a lot. I'm a landowner. Property rights are important to me. And so I got to think about that as well. I have a piece of property where there's a 2-acre plot right smack in the middle of it. And so I have to think about what the decisions I make affect me as well as they affect everybody else. Let's see. Because of those reservations in changing all of ag zoned land, I agree with you that the 1% in there helps me to be on board with putting solar zoning in place. I've looked at the regulations that the planning zoning board has proposed. It's been through multiple public hearings, public meetings. The planning and zoning board has passed it. This board has passed it by a simple motion. I'm still comfortable with what the planning and zoning board has proposed. I think that it aligns with where the comp plan directs us to go. The comp plan also on page 64 says to minimize impacts on neighboring uses, particularly residential uses, adequate separation distances are required. And so again, driving back to the comp plan, which is all of our zoning discussions or decisions have to be based on the current comp plan that York County has in place. It specifically says in there that adequate separation distances are required.
Yes.
And so therefore, that's why I'm on board with what the planning and zoning board has proposed to us. Equally, we have in those regulations a provision that if there is a non-participating parcel owner that wants to allow it closer, all they have to do is sign a paper, file it with the clerk, and it can be closer. And so I think that is very much important that we have that in there, so that when a developer wants to be closer and they can work with the parcel owner, that's allowed.
I think you're right, about it does come down to that adequate separation. It just depends on what you think is adequate. We've heard about actually needing to have a rational nexus for the decision to make it a half mile, for example, from a dwelling. And I still have not seen the rational reason for why we would need to do 1/2 mile when typically it's recommended to be closer to 100 to 300 feet.
By who? Who recommends
That's
that?
our own consultants recommend that.
But are they York County residents?
Not that I know of.
Exactly, and so I think it's imperative that we listen to York County residents.
Oh, indeed, it must all be taken into account. But you do have to have a reason for 1/2 mile.
Sure.
So, a visual is not what I would consider to be.
And that I think, and Commissioner Bowman brought that up too. I mean, it's a sense, and I think that it's really no different than odor. Odor smells, sight is a sense as well. So I think that's where, I mean, I don't feel that we can just dismiss sight.
Well, I mean, we have screening in here, 660 feet plus screening. That would go a long way. Odor, you can't even, yeah.
Sure.
Solar panels don't make odor, so that I am aware of. It's not the same thing.
The comp plan that we talk about here, Daniel, that you've
Yeah.
used.
Sure.
And we read through it. Hopefully everybody has read through it. To me, it's written fairly vague.
Mhm.
Obviously, you're a smart person. You know how many acres are in York County.
Sure.
There's 576 sections. The vast majority of York County is ag.
Right. Yep.
Vast majority, according to the same document that you're talking about. There's almost 350,000 of that 369,000 acres that is that. So when you're talking about 2,500 acres, to me, it says, but it doesn't say with definition that it cannot be done there. You brought up Delaware Avenue. Well, those are definite. The zoning
Sure.
rules within the corporate city of York says what can be in each class. There's nothing that I've read in either our comp plan or our zoning laws that absolutely prohibit it. That's why we have to come up with what we do. The second instance that you brought up is obviously more for expanding livestock. In fact, it says it in that paragraph. You're picking a couple sentences, but the ability to expand livestock. So we're back to the odor. I agree with both senses, absolutely. But if we go down that sight sense road, when do we stop there?
Sure.
Because now all of a sudden, I don't like the fact you put something else up because I don't like the look of it. And to me, that's a bigger step than I don't like the smell of it. I mean, we don't like the smell of things. We don't like the look of things. But if we're going to go down that visual road, what's next?
Sure.
So that's where I disagree with that a little bit. I do think that they're prohibited. If they weren't prohibitive, when we first passed them, the group that wears the buttons that says no solar wouldn't have stood up and applauded because they knew exactly what we did when we passed the more extensive setbacks. So, and I agree too, if we want to ban it, and we've been told by an attorney, now whether you trust that attorney's opinion or not, we've been told by an attorney this morning, just ban it.
Right.
You know, and then we'll see where the cards go. I also agree with one of your thoughts that we should push it more towards, our villages.
Mhm.
You know, and in fact, most of the land that's been taken out of crop, Monsanto, what do we call it, Bayer now?
Yeah.
You know, they took that out. Now, yes, it's ag, but they took it out of crop production. Pioneer, Mycogen, you know, these are the bigger places around that have taken crops out of production, but Flutie did.
Mhm.
You know, and he's really not ag based, 40 acres or so, you know, taken out of crop production. And we don't hear, I didn't hear any screaming about that. So that we have allowed, you know, certain areas. Now, granted, it's not at this size.
Right, exactly.
I,
And that, yeah.
I get that part of it.
Yep.
But to my knowledge, nobody forced any of these landowners to do what they wanted to do. They did it as a business, and from what I'm reading, they didn't willfully say, I want to do this, even though it says I can't do it, because there's nothing that absolutely prohibits it. It's just like the motion that we did, the resolution that we adopted, what, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it was, months ago, about, you know, the best use of.
Sure. Yep.
We didn't say it was the only use. We just said it was the best use, and our numbers show it. You know, 369,000 acres, and now granted, this comp plan used a census from the government that goes back a few years, and maybe it isn't 346,000 acres anymore, but it's going to be the vast majority of what we have is, and I think it's will remain that way. There's nothing that's going to
Right.
change that. This 2,500 acres in that amount is a very small amount. Now, it's huge to the area that they're from.
Sure, yeah.
No doubt about it. And that's why we've heard from that area mostly. Now, we did have some people this morning testify that's not from that area, but obviously doesn't want that in an ag base. And, you know, I'm, okay, that's great. But what about the ones that did? I mean, what about, that's the part I've always stood on that side. What about those people? You know, now granted, they haven't been here, but they have been to other public hearings.
Sure. Yep.
And we know what it's like to go into a room that's very uncomfortable,
Sure.
you know? And I can see why they aren't here also. You know, it's because this room gets uncomfortable, you know, and you know that people are leering at you or not wanting you to make that decision. So to me, I guess it comes down to if we want to make a decision now on what the zoning board did, we should make a motion and see where it goes. And if that fails again, then we got to do something. We
Right.
have to come to some reasonable agreement to get it behind
Sure.
us.
Yep.
And we've heard about today, it's been 4 years. It has. April something, it'll be 4 years. And me and you have been on there the whole 4 years. The other 3 hasn't quite got all that much fun, but they're getting in on it now. So like I say, to me, we see if they pass,
Mhm.
and if they don't pass, then we have to make a decision.
Sure.
I mean, we
Yeah.
just really have to come to an agreement somewhere. You know, that's what we're expected to do.
Mhm.
You know, they're representing, and it's been pointed out to us today, to represent everybody. I agree.
Sure.
Absolutely agree. Even the people that we maybe not have heard from.
Sure. Sure.
So,
I guess, Randy, to your point on going down the path of sight, and we go down the path of odor based on classes of livestock facilities. I see the site thing of different when it comes to the classes of solar. When it comes to landowner rights, when people purchase that ground, they didn't purchase it to put solar on. They didn't purchase it. They purchased it as agricultural ground. We're not taking anything away from them. If I purchase a piece of ground today, I know I can't put a livestock barn if it's within a half mile of a house. I don't see how we're infringing on those rights right now.
but there's nothing in there that with the barns, there is. I mean, we've had an older
It's defined.
footprint in our plans for a while, but with the,
But when a lot of these properties were purchased, that wasn't in our comp plan either, and we still put that in.
right, so if somebody purchases a piece of ground in, let's say today, they can never change it from what it is. That to me is infringing on their rights, because if I own that piece of property, I got 160 acres, it's mine, and I don't want to plant corn or beans on it, then I don't have a choice
how-
or.
But how is that any different than, if I purchased a piece of ground 20 years ago, the county comes in and says, well, now we decided you can't have a feed lot on it because it's within a half mile of the house. How is that any different than us saying, hey, you purchased this piece of ground 20 years ago, you can't have solar on it because it's within a half mile of the house? There's zero difference to that.
So if you had that ground for 20 years and there's been no feedlot on it.
Right.
And then you want to put a feedlot on it.
Correct.
There was rules to say you can't.
Not 20 years ago.
There was probably an older, I don't know what it was 20 years ago, but there was probably an older footprint. But, because I think older footprints have been, I mean, this document here goes back to 15 and it was the same revised. So, but still, I mean, as long as they're not breaking the law or doing something that's prohibited, which it isn't. I mean, it isn't in any of our documents right now. How is that not infringing on them?
And especially when we still don't have a rational reason for how it like actually negatively affects the neighbors in the same way as something like a livestock or something. We want to offset the visual setbacks, but that's not the same thing as things that can lead to disease and other things like that.
Right.
To me,
And I
to me,
think-
that's not the same thing at all.
Sure, and I understand that, but to me, this being, we heard it today, fairly new. So we don't know the full ramifications yet. To me, it rather than 20 years from now, say, you know what? There's all this happened because we allowed it. It's better, in my mind, 25 now saying, you know what? Solar's great. Let's let it come closer. It's easier to bring it in than to say, you know what, we screwed up and it really should have been a mile. That to me is where that's why I'm comfortable saying that it's okay being at a half mile.
I mean, we've already faced a similar situation. The pheasant farms that went in next to houses. Now we're sitting living in that issue that we continue to fight. And just talking, we've got a case going to Turk that we give some obsolescence to that property due to those facilities going in after the fact. I mean, if we don't protect what's our number one resource today, it's gonna be really hard to protect in the future.
So if we see, which I don't know that I've seen it, but if we're concerned about poisoning the ground or something like that, why don't we ban it?
Right.
Why don't we say it's okay in part of the county, or it's okay if you're a half mile away? If we're truly concerned about this, then why don't we ban it?
And where would the rationale for the poisoning come from? Like what's in the solar panels? I'm pretty interested in the chemistry aspect of this. I'm pretty knowledgeable. I've read some papers on this stuff. I don't see it. I don't see that specifically as a concern. I think the decommissioning, that's a serious concern. We don't want to end up in a situation where we have to pay because there's the planet. And that's, to be fair, that's the same, to be honest, with a lot of decrepit buildings and other things throughout the county in general that are just kind of there. And it's just like, well, what do you do about it? It costs money to remove it. So I think we don't want to, and honestly, we're going crazy on that with the solar, but I guess we can because it hasn't happened yet. So
Can I ask a question? Yeah.
Yeah.
A little bit off here.
Yeah.
Did we exhaust the public forum?
Mhm.
We did
We did.
exhaust it.
Yep.
Everybody had got a
Yep.
chance to speak.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep, I
missed
asked again and nobody
Okay.
got up. Yep.
All right, good. I missed that part.
So we had good discussion. We've talked about, putting the zoning recommendations from the Planning and Zoning Board back on the table. I would entertain a motion if there was a motion for a resolution on that.
I make a motion to approve the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendations by resolution.
Very good.
And I will second that motion.
Further discussion?
I think we've been over it.
Sure.
If you think the half mile is ridiculous, you think it's ridiculous. If you don't, then you don't.
Sure.
I have a comment that I
Yeah.
would like to make at this time.
For sure.
So, before we vote on this motion, I would like to briefly outline the work that I have done after being sworn in 2 months ago on this board. This is my 5th council meeting, and during this time, I have made every effort to be informed and accessible. I have met individually with fellow commissioners to gain their perspectives. I have consulted with the York County Zoning Administrator and a member of the Planning Commission. The York County Clerk and staff have provided valuable resources to me to understand the history of this issue. I have also engaged directly with the communities I serve, attending village board meetings at all 3 District 2 villages, hosting a town hall in Waco with more than 30 attendees, and participating in a second community meeting in McCool Junction. In addition, I have met with county residents on both sides of this issue, including landowners interested in solar development, as well as representatives from OPPD. I have also received input and offers of guidance from fellow commissioners in neighboring counties and conservation advocates. I share this to assure you that my approach has been thoughtful, thorough, and grounded in listening to all perspectives. And now I would like to let you proceed with your call for the vote.
Sure. Very good. Other discussion?
Just that, obviously, we're gonna find out through a vote now where we stand. I don't envy Deb's seat, but you wanted it. So you gotta be careful with what you want in this
What you
world,
wish
because
for.
sometimes you do get it.
Yeah.
So I just implore the board that if it comes out one way and it's adopted, and we take it as the board made that decision, whether it was 3, 2, 4, 1, 5, 0, whatever that is. But if it's defeated, then we really, really have to come to some agreements to figure out how we get this behind us. I mean, we just got to find the end result here. And it's obvious that attitudes and stubbornness plays a part in this too. We draw lines, but we've got to erase those lines. And we got to figure out, for the good of not only this Board of Commissioners, but for the people that showed up here today and for the county, we have to come to an agreement and get this behind us. So that's all I got to say.
Okay. Very good.
I would urge the board to not pass this. It's an unfinished document, as I've gone through. There's a lot of mess. 23 pages is excessive for what's in there. There's a lot of good, but there's a lot of repeated stuff, and there's some contradictory numbers in there. I do think it makes the county look bad if we've got a somewhat unfinished document being passed. So I would recommend that we do not vote for this. In favor of.
I got one more statement, and it's to Joe's statement of if we don't pass this, we're closed for business. I don't believe that. I don't believe this is the type of business York County needs to get into. Not just this particular project, but others like it. My biggest concern is when I look at our schools, when I look at our businesses in York and our surrounding communities, we need to find business that brings people to our county, that gives jobs and opportunities for our children, so we can grow as a county that way. It pains me every time I see another business close down, or a bar in a small town, because they can't A, get help, or B, just don't have the patronage to survive. All these small towns in New York used to be extremely thriving. Now it seems like we're heavily reliant on interstate business and interstate traffic to stay relevant. we all know the biggest problem in York County is housing. I think that's a bigger issue to address than even the solar zoning portion. And I don't think any of that applies to approving a solar farm. The flash in the pan economy of it is not self-sustaining, and I think in the long term is a very, very bad move.
All right, so just to reiterate, in front of us, we have a motion and a second to approve by resolution the planning and zoning board's recommendations for solar zoning, I guess. Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes,
Obermeyer,
No,
Burgess,
No,
Robertson,
No,
Groves.
Yes. All right, so unfortunately, that resolution fails. And so that takes us to tasking us to find a resolution or a compromise rather, where we can agree on what solar zoning should look like for York County. We've had a lot of discussion. We can continue that discussion here. See if there's any place where we can find some commonality, some common ground. We can, everybody can take their thoughts and we can reconvene again at our next meeting.
Joe, I appreciate, sorry, Daniel.
Yeah,
but
no, go ahead.
Let's just go. Joe, I appreciate the work that you've done, but to me, the main setback is the setbacks.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
that's the stumbling block
I
of all
agree with
this. And to rewrite the document and go through all that process, to me, and we had a little bit of conversation about that. We know that our comp plan is winding up. We know that there's probably some other things we're gonna find, and we cleaned that document up at that point in time. We can incorporate with the right words, different numbers in our setbacks. And to me, is there any place, leaving it at 4 classes for the time being, is there any place in 1, 2, 3, 4 that we can agree on? That we can at least get that part behind us? The small ones, can we agree that they can be, as put out in the document? The class 1, 10-foot side, 15-foot per property line. Are those things, can we agree on that? Can we agree on the commercial? Or do we refine those numbers? That's where I would think that we would go first.
yeah, I would think we can find an agreement, at least on class 1 and 2, and hopefully class 3 in the 4-class system, that is. The class 4 has been the sticking point, but I would hope we could at least, and obviously you sent out your recommendations to the board. I have no problem with the recommendations you made.
So to me,
Maybe a
the
little.
1, 2, and 3, and of course, in yours, 1 and 2 are kind of combined in one.
Yeah.
But, those are setbacks that have structural setbacks. I did send out 15 foot from property line. I visited with Fallers, and a lot of times on their screenings, they recommend, like if they're planting pines or something like that, they recommend 18 foot. So 15 foot might be just a little bit close, because if we want some screening in there too and not over line, maybe 25 foot would be a little bit more adequate if we want screening around this. But yes, I had that as 15 foot on the first 3. Basically, the commercial aspect for 1 megawatt to 5 megawatts, my thinking is that, if we do have this corridor property that's there that only has 4 or 5 acres, they want to be self-contained with a 330 foot setback, they're going to have a hard time creating enough electricity to be self-contained. So that's why on class 3 also, I recommended that it just goes with somewhat of a normal structural setback that York County operates on. is my recommendations. So, like I say, is there anything there in, one, do we agree on that to where we can put that behind us?
I've got a question on your comments on class 3. That can wait if we want to just look at class 1.
Well, I'm just looking for some way where we can find some agreement
Yep.
to.
Yep.
That's behind us, here we go for 2 or
Yep.
whatever.
I think, I don't know that I have any problem with where class 1 is currently setting.
Either.
So then we could say that, okay, that's behind us. That's not the obstruction.
Right. I would agree.
Wait, so you're saying how it currently is in the document
Yeah.
right now?
Right.
Correct.
Not what you're recommending?
No,
No,
what is in the
what I'm
current
looking at
document
right now,
for class 1.
that's in the current
I don't-
document.
I
The
don't think,
75 or the 108?
well, it's 75 from road.
Yeah.
Sure.
But only 10 from the side or 15 from the property line.
Yeah, okay.
And that's for the small individual local ones.
Personal use type.
I don't think you want to go lower than
Well,
that.
It's just, I believe the agriculture is at 58 feet for a regular structure. Setbacks, yes, that'd be correct. So I don't see why.
From the roadway.
Yeah, from the roadway. So that's why, I don't see why we would have any reason to go beyond what, like, you could put up a shed or a barn or something. Like, why would it be more for a class 1? Is there a reason? You know what I'm saying? I feel like, and that's the thing from our consultants as well. It's like, how do we defend that it should be more than any other building that you could build? And this is just for the small ones. We're not even talking about the big ones yet.
Right.
That's why the one that I'm proposing is just for the small ones. It's like, we don't need to have extra setbacks for that. It could just be what building setbacks are already in the zoning code that we have already adopted.
So where I'm at on that, Joe, is for the, 17 feet, difference.
I mean, I
I'm
don't
not
really
gonna
care.
draw
I'm just like,
that.
what's the reason?
I'm
for
not
that,
gonna draw
That's,
that line.
that's all it is.
I'm looking for the, can we agree on that?
Right.
And then just put it behind, and say, okay, yeah, we're okay with that. You don't like it,
Well, I
you
mean,
don't understand it.
I
but
don't
that's
see
what
why
they
for
put
the
forward.
smaller ones we would care. Like, what's the purpose of regulating that? But beyond what we would for any other building. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It like I mean, if it had to be 108 in order to pass some sort of regulations or 75 or whatever, then I would probably be willing to compromise on that. I just don't like what. Why would that be? I just don't see like a good reason for it. That was the hill that other people wanted to die on, but
Right. So mainly on class 1, your biggest, the only thing that you're questioning is the setback from the road.
so well, like if someone wanted to, put solar panels on their house or something, that would fall under like this class, right? They want to put them on their roof or the shed of they want to put them on their shed or their barn or something like that. If the barn's at like whatever the property setback, whatever the setback is for the building, if it's at the limit there, that would be like beyond what they are for solar. Solar would not be able to be on that because it has a further setback than the other building. I guess you could get an exemption maybe with the administrator, the zoning administrator or something, I guess if you talk to him. But to me, it's like, why would we even codify that and say you can't do it at this? Like, why even bother to regulate that beyond what is already required for buildings?
Sure. I mean, that's worth investigating. I think majority of this is standalone, not necessarily.
Yeah,
rooftop,
primarily that's what it's on.
But yeah, so we can, let's look into that. See if there was a reason why they wanted to put that at 75.
Yeah, that's a question worth asking, I think.
So then if you look at class 2, it goes to 108. Are you questioning that one as well?
I mean, I'd feel kind of the same way for a lot of the small ones. Again, if that's like the sticking point for someone, I'm ready to compromise. But I don't feel like we should have to add any extra setbacks that we wouldn't have on any other building to these smaller projects. For the larger ones, obviously that's a concern. People are worried about this, so I could compromise on that totally. But for these ones, I haven't heard a reason why the smaller ones would be more than any other building in the county, really. It's just an individual use. I guess class 2 would be more than individual use, so you could do a little further if you wanted.
I would agree with individual use could be like,
Yeah.
class 2, I think needs far setback.
For commercial, I do think that you can make more of an argument for it's,
Sure.
whatever else. But I mean, I would still recommend we just do that when it's not, non-participating, it's just from the property line or whatever else. I would just do the regular setbacks from the roadway.
So then, as Daniel stated, you're fine with everything else, so.
As far as,
On
Yeah.
class
one.
1.
yeah, there's not like a sticking point really for me there at all. I'd be fine with it.
And then in 2 is where we start coming up with the 330 feet and on all these non-participating dwellings and churches and cemeteries and state rec and platted subdivisions. Is everybody, I mean, where are we at on that?
It's overcomplicated it, in my opinion.
What is?
Like, you don't need to list all those things. I feel like that's like a conditional use thing, but I don't know. I mean, you guys know how I feel because I already sent my version of what I would like to get it to. So I've sent my recommendations out. So I guess I can just let those speak for themselves.
Okay. And I would state on those, the normal setbacks on those.
Yep.
Is, I'm fine with that too, versus the 330. This is for administrative approval. Last one was, and I'm fine on that, up to that. As for the 100 kV to the 1 megawatt. I think 1 megawatt is,
Starting to get big.
isn't it 4 acres, something, isn't it like 4 acres per megawatt or something?
Something
I
like
was
that. I
told
think. Yep.
at one time, because, what York has out here on the northwest corner of town is in that 3-4 megawatt, I believe, capacity type deal. Is this where we start to differ now on these?
I'm just, where do you have, I guess off the top of my head, I'm not sure what the setbacks currently are. Like, I guess, let's see.
In the current registry?
Right, yeah.
I should have put that on my printout. I just had the
That's
road.
all right.
I just had the roads. on
Nate,
my
do you
other
have that pulled up? What the current setbacks are, side, front?
General ag right now.
Yeah, just for a commercial, or not commercial, just for structures within the ag.
58 feet in the front from center of the road, 5 feet on the side, 10 feet in the back.
Yep, that's right.
Okay, so basically the same, similar anyway,
Yeah, it'd be the same as the other.
from the class,
Class
where the class 1 is setting.
Very similar.
Where,
I think we have to have some bigger setbacks there, otherwise we're gonna have issues like we have with the substation out there.
right. It's a good It's a good point. We've got an electrical substation that's built within 100 feet, maybe,
Yeah, probably somewhat close. So
from the outside wall. 150
75
feet.
at the closest.
And all the setbacks we'd be doing for property lines, right? Just do property lines down the board. That's what
I think that's a
what-
lot.
I think it's simpler, yeah. That's what I would recommend, is just stick with property line.
And this is where we would probably want to start looking into in ag
Sure.
or in our
Versus.
commercial corridor.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because to me, if it's in our commercial corridor, then the setbacks really shrink. To be able to allow
Well, yeah, 'cause it's
that
different.
possible business that is in the county, but yet is along, like a clothing manufacturer
Sure.
out there. He wants to start creating his own power, then we should shrink those things down. And I would agree, because of the situations that we do have by our substations now, that we come up with some, but we're gonna have to vary
Right.
between the two. I
Right.
think.
Mhm, mhm.
So
Okay.
I would say on both 2 and 3, my opinion would be when it's along in our commercial industrial corridors, which, is our highway systems and our exits from the interstate system, that we really look at, getting those shrunk down to where they are for structures. And then ag come up with some ideas on
Sure.
where we are in ag.
Well, and these,
Right.
this article is specifically about an exception for agriculturally zoned land, right? As it is so far. Like, we could, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right now, that's what it is. It would be,
I think we
The-
did in
for
the
the conditional
final
uses.
version. Final version, I think it did include all
all the other
the
zoning
others as
districts.
well.
Yeah.
Correct.
It makes sense to me, I guess.
Right. I think that was something. It was initially just ag zoned.
Yeah.
That was where
But
this
then
was
it's
going to
like,
change.
we
But
have
then
more than that.
why aren't we allowing it in the industrial corridor? And so, if I remember correctly,
That's a good thing then.
those were included in the final. So yeah,
But we didn't have
Break
different
that
setbacks
out.
for them yet. That's what you're suggesting, is we have different for that. And I think that I'd be fine with that.
do we have what does that extend? Is it a mile past, or do we know what
I'm gonna
that?
have to look that up. I
Yeah,
think
I
it's
don't-
half mile.
Yeah.
Past the corridor.
Yep.
And I don't think that it points it out in our.
It does not. I
On SAM,
looked.
did you look on SAM? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I looked a couple nights ago.
I didn't think that it did, but yeah, I think it's a half mile in our corridors, which would be reasonable thinking.
Sure.
Your Monsanto, your Pioneer,
Yep.
everybody that's along that corridor.
Yep.
Allowing it to be closer, in that setting.
What then, if we look at class 3, what kind of a differentiation do you see between 2 and 3?
Not a lot.
No, that's why I combined them into just class 3 on mine.
Because that's gonna be
They're the same thing.
your smaller, like I say, it's gonna be the extent of, and hopefully everybody knows it, but we have one that fits that right out here, within a mile of us out in the northwest part of York. And obviously the screening was already there because of the landfill was there, it went in, and I don't know that it gets noticed at all, but that fits right into that
Sure.
that area there. And who knows what the future brings, but, I don't see those popping up all over the place. Those are gonna be in those business arenas that maybe your sheet corn companies are gonna take advantage of, maybe your ethanol plant's gonna take advantage of, things like that, they're gonna take advantage of wanting to do that. And I think that's where we can address that in that commercial corridor. And then if we wanna talk about it in ag use, and we wanna put those setbacks back to, 100 or a little bit more, because once again, they're not that big.
Right.
I think also too, in the ag side, we need to add screening requirements to that as well.
Sure,
Are
and
you guys,
maybe not as much of a screening on
Maybe
a,
not as much. but
industrial.
yes.
yeah,
because I'm in favor of screening from dwellings and stuff, but I don't know if screening is necessary all the way around. You know what I'm saying?
sure.
So that's kind of where I've been sitting, is from the dwellings, screening, sure, totally. I think that's what the point of the screening is, right? It's where people live, or whatever else. And then, obviously, I think conditional use is where you really get into the detail. But, for me, it's like dwellings, I don't really see why we need to have screening all the way around something unless there's a dwelling, and always that wants the screening. Sure. I don't know if we would require that if it's just across the street from another cornfield or from industrial stuff, necessarily. Although maybe we want fences around that. I don't know how you guys feel about that.
I think we definitely still need fences around it.
Right.
Whoever puts it up is gonna want a fence anyway.
Yeah. I'm not opposed to fences for screening. And obviously the chain link fence doesn't count as we have in there. That's not screening.
Right.
If we're looking at the commercial and industrial corridors, the setback for those, are we comfortable with just the normal setbacks for structures? Or do we want to say, something a little bit more like 15 or 20 feet, because it is 5 on the side, 10 in the back?
I'm probably okay with it in the commercial corridor. I don't know what to think.
I'm okay with that. Where my sticking point is from not.
Right.
Yeah, that's the big one.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd say for the industrial, with the corridor, we just stick with it like we do for the class 1 and the whatever else, just stick with what the setbacks are. Just for simplicity's sake, if anything else, like if nothing else, I guess.
So,
That'd be my opinion.
okay.
But you're saying we could shorten it, is what you're saying, to 15 or what was it?
No, it's used to just normal structural
Yeah.
setbacks.
That's what I think, yeah.
In the commercial industrial corridor.
I am a little concerned about the heat off those structures and how they're gonna affect. Willard's upset that I said that, but I've got a real-time example of how heat affects ground. I got a farm right next to the airport, and the heat off the runway from all the crop planes coming in and out affects my field about 60 rows in, and I'm already 550 feet from the runway. So I think that's something we need to consider. I think one thing that would dissipate that is, I think if we put a screen in, that would cure that, and we could reduce that
That's true.
back.
Good point.
Willard doesn't believe me, but if you come out and look at it this summer, Willard.
That is actually one of the,
So-
we haven't talked about this for a while, but that is one of the things to consider. It doesn't go super far sometimes, and you can mitigate it with screening, but it is a real concern.
So screening and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Obviously, once again, to have the screening in there and so you're not going off, you're gonna have to allow 20 to 25 feet
Right.
for screening. And then, that on the back side of it. Will that take care of it, or do you say screening and 50 feet back?
I like the screening at 50 feet back.
And that's in the
And we're just
industrial?
talking about commercial industrial.
Yes.
corridor.
Is that in industrial?
That's it.
That's exactly.
I mean, and I can, that sounds good to me.
If that's,
You gotta protect the property around it.
I'm not entirely opposed to screening at all. So,
And are we-
Screening does give us this protection against flying debris too. in
Sure.
adjacent properties.
a famous risk of
Are we-
solar panels after all.
Are we
I'm just kidding.
looking at both 2 and 3 for that?
For commercial,
Yep.
industrial.
Right,
corridors,
yep.
yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Splitting the hair, so to speak, right now. We're
Right.
talking about ag.
Right.
Yeah, just the industrial
Yep,
corridor.
yep.
And that would be, for 2 and 3.
Right, correct.
The bigger one, yes.
So now what do
And
you
then the
want to
front
do?
footage being changed, obviously, there too. To normal off the front. So if we're looking at this as being a highway, we're talking, that off the right of way. Property line right of way.
Yeah.
Just a normal setback off of that.
That's what I would say.
Because there shouldn't be any heat issues or anything like that for highways. Thoughts? Yep.
Just
Listening?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
It's compromising and
Okay.
so far I don't think I have questions.
Okay.
I do.
Well, I'm glad you brought up the heat things. I think that's where the 100 to 300 feet comes from the recommendations. It's just been a while since I talked about that one.
So then
So then,
if we turn to, if we're kind of all in agreement on that, if we turn to the ag side
do you
of
want,
2 and 3.
before we do that, or maybe it's all tied in, non-participating dwellings in the industrial corridor. So is it just,
I would say personally, I would say it's tied in.
so
When-
50
when-
feet?
Yes.
Okay.
In those
Right.
corridors.
I think we need to give a little bit there. I mean, yes, I understand they are living in that industrial corridor.
Okay.
But I think we need a little bit more protection for them rather than screening at 50 feet.
Okay.
So for instance, we brought up Pioneer. There's 2 residential dwellings right up there, pretty close. If they're non-participating, I think we need to have some sort of extra setback for them there. And again, if they want to
Right.
reduce it, that's perfectly fine.
That's
for
what I was
them to
gonna
do
ask,
it.
is if they could-
But
Yeah,
I don't know that I can just say, sorry, you live in the corridor, that's what you get. Now, does it need to be huge? Probably not, but I think it does need to be more than just from anything else.
Okay.
That's
And this is on
way
just
I
2 and 3,
correct.
just on
Yep.
2 and 3 in that corridor.
Yep.
Okay.
Any numbers?
My number's 330.
330?
Or not.
65.
Okay, so yeah, I think we need to think. I think we need to think about that.
That could be, in a smaller piece, if I had 4 acres, that could
Be a lot of it.
null and void at that too. Because if I had 4 acres and I wanted 1 acre, of it, I would have a hard time, making that fit with 3,
Right.
or go get those waivers. I'd have to go get those
Sure.
waivers.
Yep.
Which, yeah, I mean, I could see more, but I probably wouldn't be to that, not on the court.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's keep thinking about that now if you want to turn to ag on class 2 and 3.
Okay. Trying to keep notes because I'm sure Nate's gonna want to, well, you can always go watch it again.
I'm trying to take them as we go.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Nate. So now we're talking about 2 and 3. 100 kV up to 5 megawatt, size that would be in an ag only area.
Do we want to do 2 and 3 at the same time for this, or, because to me, at least in mine, I put the distinction between the,
1 and 2.
I put 3 and 4 basically the same on mine.
Okay.
Essentially, I don't know.
Well,
I don't
we're really
mind.
just talking about what.
Yeah,
Let's do it.
I'm just saying, like, do we want to have the distinction between 1, 2, 3, and then 4, or do we want to have it 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4? Like, do we want, for the where the differences should be?
I think the class 4 grows significantly faster than 2 to 3. So I think if we do 1, 2, 3, and 4,
Yeah, that's fine.
it makes, I think that's, to me, falls more
Yeah, that's
in
fine.
line. I don't know if anybody else has,
Well, yeah, I'm with you there, but if we're gonna do that, the permitting process for class 2 needs to also be a conditional use too.
That's the thing, is the conditional use is only required for, wait,
well, yeah, and we don't have to change that. I mean, 3 can still be a conditional
I
use.
think 2 does.
You think 2 should be as well. Okay.
okay.
In ag. Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is-
And I got no problem
Yeah,
with the conditional use permit
Yeah.
process. It just is one more step for them to go through, but I got no problem with that. Outside of the non-participating, leaving that because I think that'll be the one is the stickler.
Yep.
Outside of the non-participating in ag, does anybody feel comfortable with the 50 screening and 50? And these are participating and, everything else there.
So now I need to just
Yep.
figure out where we are, because there's a lot. So we're talking about property that's zoned agricultural
Yes,
and is in this smaller kilowatt production or size of,
yeah, class 2 and 3. It's still commercial, but so it's being sold off or whatever, but it's not the small, like, individual one, but it's not the huge, class 4. Right, that's where our distinction is.
I just wanted to make sure I was thinking
Yeah.
what you were talking, so thank you.
Yes.
screening.
On those, I'm fine with it, leaving out the non-participating development.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the non-participating,
Yep.
but everybody else in those two, I'm fine treating them the same way, personally.
Right.
Yeah, I'd be fine with that.
What about going to like a screening at 150 feet?
For just everything else, except for the dwelling? Yeah.
Correct.
150, you said?
And so, and we're talking more, because to Joe's point of a little bit complicated, there's non-participating property. And then we're not talking about non-participating dwellings, but then there's churches, cemeteries, state rec, and platted subdivisions. The platted,
Churches, schools, cemeteries all need to be treated like the same as non-participating dwellings.
okay. So if we go that route, then really all we would be talking about is the non-participating property. So farmland, basically. And so,
In non-participating dwelling.
right,
Oh, yeah, but we'll have different numbers for those two. The dwelling versus the farmland.
So the
I
non,
would,
go ahead.
I was gonna say the platted subdivisions and non-participating dwellings, I could see those being grouped together. Churches, cemeteries, state recs, I could probably compromise and let them be a little closer than
Red dwelling.
the dwellings.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that. As I did.
So let's talk about in ag, non-participating property, for class 2 and 3. Your feeling is the heat is probably the reason we need to
Heat
be
is a big
a little bit farther.
Yes. I think the screening can help reduce that.
Yep.
But it's not gonna eliminate it.
Right.
The other thing that scares me about all the screening we're talking about, it's gonna be 8 years before it's effective.
Right, correct, yep.
So,
There is
Well, with the
within
vegetative,
here,
yeah, right.
yeah, right, and that's mainly,
Well,
the
Marvin
fence
told us to
might
change
not,
our thing on that
yeah,
too.
the fence might not stop the heat, trees should help anyway.
The main thing is distance with the heat. It dissipates really quickly with distance.
Sure.
You give it, 150 feet from the road line or property line, that'll do big. And I mean, it's fractions of a degree you're talking about, so. It's like right next to it is where the heat is, and then it drops off like exponentially, very, very quickly from the stuff I've read. I'd have to catch back up on that probably to get the exact numbers though,
Mhm.
before we vote on it. I guess.
So where were you at on the non-participating
So
property? Not dwelling,
non-participating, yeah,
but property.
non-participating property, including churches, schools, and cemeteries. That's where we said screening in maybe 150 feet. That reduces the churches, cemeteries, and state recs. It does increase the
Overall.
non-participating property.
Of what they recommend.
Correct. Of what was put before us, yep.
You know, and that is just around it, you know, so we're not talking about the whole quarter or the whole 80 or whatever.
Right.
We're talking about if we have something right here.
Yep.
Because these are at max just a few acres.
Yep.
It's around that and then it, you know,
Yep.
they wouldn't have to worry about it. You know, the rest of their quarter, if you had this
Correct.
10-acre piece and you wanted some panels on there, then for that, whatever it took here, 300-400 feet, you would need to be that 150, but, you know.
Right. Yep.
Okay. I mean, I can live with that.
I guess I would add one thing. I think and this might not be a concern for these smaller ones, but for the larger ones, I don't think there should be a setback between like two participating properties that don't have like a road or anything between them. You shouldn't have to have just a gap for no reason there.
participate.
Right,
Yes,
Partic-
both participating, only in that situation. is what I'm
Right.
saying. Yeah.
Just normal setbacks.
Yes.
Just the normal
Well,
structural
he's
setbacks.
saying-
Well, no, I'm saying if you've got people owning like different parcels or whatever else, and they're connected, they're both signed on to the solar thing, same lease, everything. They shouldn't be required to just have a gap between those. Like, you should be able to plan that sort of as one thing and have your access roads or whatever else. You can plan that, but I don't think you should have to have a setback there.
so it really doesn't
I think-
apply,
yeah.
doesn't apply to class 2 and 3 very,
No,
No, this would be for the bigger ones, for joint
Right.
stuff. When there's multiple properties that are joined.
I think you're still on a property line, you're gonna want something. You know, some
Perhaps.
form of setback, just the normal structural, if we're talking about that, just the normal, you know, where you have the property line, you know, that they can't just go right on property line, both of them, you know what I mean, or cross it. Because
Right.
properties change hands and future type deals, so I don't know that.
But the lease would continue though, would it not? That's what I'm saying, that's why I'm saying.
Okay, well, we're not on those yet. so-
more about that later.
So are we okay
Well,
with 150 on that then? On the non-participating properties, screening 150. And that's from property line. Front and back, or, side and back.
And you said 50, and then he said 150, right? 50
Right.
in screening, 150 screening, right?
right, we added, yeah, I think that's what you
Yeah,
said
the 150
too,
is.
right, yeah.
That'd be fine, I think. Probably a little much, but I mean, I'm not upset about it.
Okay,
So now, we need to talk about platted subdivisions and participating dwellings.
Like 660.
no. Platted subdivisions and participating or non-participating dwellings?
Sorry, non.
Okay. And you view those as needing more than 150 feet setbacks?
Right, exactly. So what was put before us is the 330 for both of class 2 and 3.
Right.
I don't see how we can get any closer than those whatsoever.
You'd be all right with 330 on both
I'd
of
be
those?
all right with 330 on those.
For classroom 3?
Right, yeah.
Okay, 330. That we're thinking?
This is in ag,
That ag only.
you know.
Yeah.
So more than likely, I'm just trying, it shouldn't. Cut anybody out at 330.
Depends upon the size of
Right.
your
Yeah,
parcel.
I mean, everything will be, making it less efficient, but that's not really.
And I think the fallback obviously is they still have the opportunity to negotiate with their neighbors.
Right.
For a smaller piece. I mean, that's.
For a
fine.
small one.
These I don't see as some, once again, popping up.
All
Very little in industrial, commercial, and probably hardly anywhere. You know, I think the ones that I've seen, are gonna be the small. And
Right,
they've utilized them to their sheds or something like that.
Yeah.
That they've utilized for, that. So I mean, I don't see, so I don't, I don't have a problem with
Right.
that.
Okay.
That's what I put for my class 2 or whatever, which would be the same thing as these, so, I mean, that'd be fine. 330.
And are we,
And-
screening end,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, for the drawings for sure.
Okay.
So,
And then the front
we want-
setback, or did we address the fronts on this?
we have not, unless we just leave it all the same.
150 is screening.
You're talking about like along a roadway.
Roadways, yes.
So, yeah, currently, if we were working off of the document that was presented to us, that's 108. It's probably okay to just leave it at that, huh? 50 feet further than the regular setbacks, or do you want to reduce that to match structural setbacks?
For class 2, 3.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not gonna die on that bridge,
Right.
right? So that, I can go either way, on that. It is a roadway.
Yeah.
It is the front of the property. Yeah, I don't know why the 108, to me, it seems cleaner, 50, 75, 100, but
Right.
108 is, what it is. Because we are talking about property line. I think some of the other setbacks that we're talking about are center of the road.
Well,
But that's for the
this
resident.
one does
Center
say
of the
Center
front.
of the road.
Yeah.
Okay, road center, I did see
Yeah.
that there. So 108, so we got 33 eaten up out of that.
Yep.
Because 36 foot right away for the roadway. So it leaves 75 then.
That would be
That's-
fine. So
So we'll leave
just
that.
stick with what it is.
Yep.
Okay.
Okay, does that take care of 1, 2, and 3?
I think it does. Well, we have not really addressed
We didn't talk about industrial.
housing in the industrial corridor, non-participating dwellings
Oh,
in the
we did not.
industrial
That's
corridor.
right.
We did 330 for ag. Would we do the same or would we do less? I think I would do probably less for industrial, but I don't know, I'm not.
I don't see.
We could do the
different,
same if you want, but
It's a 60.
116.
We're gonna have to do something
Yep.
different on the front. Because that, I'm not sure what their right of way is. It's more than 36.
Right, I see from,
That's true.
yeah,
That's true.
we
We have to keep that in mind.
so, do we change that
From maybe
to
from
be
right of way.
75 feet from
From
right
right
of
of
way rather than center of the road?
Right, because like I say, I'm not sure what the highways.
Right.
Yeah.
But-
Because that, yeah, I think that would be cleaner probably. I'd be okay with that,
And then leave 330 on
the houses.
in commercial and industrial. Right?
Yeah,
For just
and-
industrial.
well,
Industrial
it'd be
corridor.
both.
The corridor, commercial
Yeah.
industrial corridor. is
Yes.
what I've been calling
I mean, it'd be the 330 would be the same.
it. Right.
Okay.
And then we're saying from right of way, 75,
From right away.
75 feet from right of way. Is that what we come up with, Daniel?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now we're down to 4.
Class 4. Real quick, for class 1, did we just stick with, I want to go back over, I didn't write it down. Was that just, we stuck with,
I think structure,
did we do the
Structural.
structural setback for class 1 only?
That was stuck with the 75 feet from sundown.
Okay, 75?
Change setbacks to what a regular building is
Well, for class 1,
for class 1.
just regular.
Mhm.
Okay, that's what I thought.
But then what if, yeah, and then,
Well, what they have written down. Here's what I,
10 and property line.
yeah. Cause I put no change on 1.
Oh, so we're keeping the
What they recommend.
Yeah.
75?
Yeah. That's what I.
Okay, now to complicate this,
Change setbacks to what.
That's what I thought. I thought we,
We talked about it, but
we didn't ever really agree.
I'm sorry, Mary, I didn't hear what you said.
I wrote change setbacks to what a regular building is if they put the solar panels on top of their building, because Joe mentioned,
gotta
well,
be
if their
further.
building is right there at the regular setbacks, then that solar would have to be further back and they couldn't put it on their building.
Yeah, these are
That's what I did.
10 and 15 and our normal is 5 and 10, so we're talking about 5 feet.
Right.
But from the
So,
front though, some more as well.
oh, from the front, 75 feet from center of road.
Yeah, instead of 58. That was the only thing, is I was just saying, why is it more? I didn't know that we'd agreed to go with the,
I don't think leaving it at 75 creates any issues.
No, I mean,
Okay. That's fine, we can stick with that.
So
No one's gonna build a building right on the edge of the road. I should say no one.
Yeah, I was about to say. I had to debate with that one.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know why anyone would want to build a building right
Good
on the
answer.
edge of the road.
Hey, it's just our job to, be ready for the weird ones, to be honest.
Alright.
Class 4. Non-participating property only.
Okay,
I think they're gonna be, obviously the front setback is, 108, like we admitted, is 33 feet to 8 up in the road, and then there's an additional 75 feet up front. Unless there's any changes that we feel like we need there.
yeah, I think that's fine unless we want to reword that to be 75 feet from right of way. I think the reason it's wrote from center of the road is in the county, it's a lot easier to find the center of the road than it is to find the right of way. On the state, it's
If the center of the road's where it's supposed to be, yeah. We've had that issue
exactly
too.
right. Yep.
Yes. I
Yep.
like leaving the center of the road.
Okay, so that's fine.
Anomalies.
Right.
like that.
Exactly. Yep. Okay, so now non-participating property.
Yeah, just property, not dwelling.
Just property. So do we think that when we are talking an array, now we're talking quarters or whatever.
Yep.
A lot of it is done by quarters. Do we think that perimeter screening and buffering that we required in the others is enough? That we required there, or
My recommendation would be to do the same thing for the non-participating, just property, as we've done for class 2 and 3. Dwelling, I think you could talk maybe, because it is maybe a larger thing. But I don't, as far as just property, I don't see as much of a difference, if any difference.
Between the two,
Yeah, the 2, 3, and the 4, as far as just the property.
well, the difference is 40 acres versus 160 acres. And so you have a lot more heat coming off of those.
Well, I don't think that's
Okay.
supported. That's what I'm saying. I don't think that's supported.
Okay,
But, I mean, we could maybe do a little more if that's what you guys want, but
right.
I would recommend we just do the same for specifically the property, because it's not gonna be substantially different from what I understand. We could also wait and if we wanted to look into the heat thing more, although we've done that in the past as well, to be fair.
If we
And it was
said,
really helpful.
if we said 3:30,
Just across the board, 3:30 for the property.
Non-participating property.
Okay, 3:30 in the screen.
non-participating property, we're only on that one only.
Okay, yep, that's what I thought.
Screening
I'd
and
like to add screen and erosion control plan to that.
Mhm.
'Cause we already see it with some of our cornfields now, that heavy rains, our ditches are full, and we got erosion control, especially in certain parts of our county, is extremely important. Heavy rain coming off of a hillside that's an eighth of a mile long can move a lot of material in a hurry when it's coming off of panels. I think.
So when you, Andy, when you say erosion control plan,
Right.
when you say screening, I guess first, is that screening in that 3:30?
Yeah,
They have to
screening in that
screen.
30, and then they have to have a plan to basically, I don't know, that, maybe some of it requires nothing for erosion control, maybe some of it requires a berm of some type.
Buffering before it comes into the.
Right.
This is kind of sounding like another draft is.
So basically 3:30 and screening.
Right.
They're screening in the 3:30, but 3:30 would be the setback off of non-participating property.
Yeah.
That, I could live with that.
Seems like kind of a lot, but we can go with that for now. Maybe. Because we are talking about much larger pieces of land, that is true. So it's less of an effect as well on the property, because percentage wise.
Participating dwelling, they have it at 75. I don't have a problem with that.
Right, yeah.
It's participating. They can figure that out.
Well, I don't, if you're participating, it's no big deal, and I don't know that the advantage of trying to negotiate closer than 75 feet is
Right.
really there.
Yep.
So,
Yeah, that's fine to leave it.
non-participating dwelling is probably gonna be, I assume, more of a stickler than the other ones.
Mhm.
The churches, cemeteries, state recs, and I know we have to have those in there, but there's gonna be very few of those out there. We have some, but very few of
Right.
those out
Yep.
there. The churches, cemeteries, state rec areas and platted subdivisions, can we lump those, or do we need to separate those off?
The only one, I'm fine lumping churches, schools, cemeteries, state recs. We can lump them together and
Okay.
find a number. The platted subdivisions, I might have a little bit of problem if we lump that
Right.
in there. But yeah, churches, schools, cemeteries, state recs, I can get on board with putting those all together.
And are we okay with 3:30 as, with the non-participating, or with the,
With the,
I'm sorry, non-participating property 3:30, are we okay with cemetery, state rec and platted subdivisions at 3:30?
Not platted subdivisions.
Or not,
Just
I'm
the other
sorry.
ones, yeah, not the plan.
Churches, schools, cemeteries.
the cemetery, so
Churches, schools,
Before-
cemeteries, and state rec.
State
areas, recs.
So before, churches, schools, state recs were at a half mile, that's what was proposed, and cemeteries were at 660.
I think we should do it the same for the church school one as the
3:30.
non-participating property does.
3:30.
I would do 3:30 screening.
I agree.
Are you gonna leave non-participating dwellings at a half mile?
I'd agree to,
We'll talk to that when
I
we
would
get to it.
agree to that if you left the non-participating dwellings at a half mile.
Right.
They can always sign off.
Right.
These guys cut a hard bark.
Where, do you have a recommendation on churches, cemeteries, and state recs?
Depending on where we end up on non-participating dwellings.
Well, then let's just,
Yeah,
let's
so
just
no.
do the non-participating. dwelling.
I mean, where I initially was going was making churches and schools and state recs at the 660, the same as cemeteries. That was proposed. But we can talk about non-participating dwellings for a minute. So yeah, I mean, if we could agree to leave non-participating dwellings at a half mile, I would agree to compromise on the churches, schools, cemeteries, state recs, and go to 3:30.
I would agree with Daniel with the one exception. I'd like to see churches and schools stay at 660.
So those are something that are, you know, our churches stay busy. I was at a church meeting last night, but they're not something that's dwelt in typically
24/7.
all the time.
Yeah.
I
65.
don't see the detriment, I guess, to them as much in that respect.
I don't, from the church standpoint, the schools is where I take issue.
And then, you know, once again, we don't know what the future brings, but right now we're not talking about obviously very many, but yeah, I'm fine with that. Schools, 660?
Yep.
Or are we still talking about non-participant, we want to go to
Yeah, do you want to talk about
non-participating
dwellings
dwelling?
first? Which one do we decide first?
Well, if we agree to leave it at a half mile and down there, then we don't have to talk about it. But
Well, I don't know if you've noticed, but we don't agree. So, there's that.
Okay, we haven't said anything on this. Non-participating.
Said a lot on it.
Can we differentiate between front, side, and back?
right. If
Not,
we need
not
to,
half mile all the way around.
okay,
Can we differentiate differently than we have anywhere else?
right.
I guess what's the difference, Randy? I mean, if you
Front is-
don't like it on one
Right.
side or the other, you're not gonna like it, period.
I
So
think,
that's what I'm just saying.
Yeah,
Can we,
it's just a
if we
question.
can't, we
Is there a
can't.
room for compromise at all?
I think it depends on what we can, how we can compromise. Can I compromise at putting non-participating dwellings at 330 feet? Absolutely not. Can I compromise in reducing the backside and, or the sides and the back and leaving the front at a half mile? I could find a way to compromise on that. So that's where I feel a front, side, back differentiation could be a way to compromise.
It would be a unique situation, but I guess to me, the Andy would be the fact that obviously most traditional places, you know, the front is out front, you're looking out front, you fill in your yards out back here, your barns, your sheds, your everything else. Yeah, I could, in the act of trying to find a final resolution to this, could agree with, okay, the front property is that half, but the rest we pull into 660.
What about a quarter mile?
Absolutely.
Because I think that from the front, half mile is too much still. But if that's what it would take, maybe to come to like that, I think, I don't know, it still seems like a lot, but maybe I could be okay with the 660 on the other sides and then the half mile in the front.
What about
Still
if
seems like
we did a half mile in the front and a quarter mile on the sides in the back?
which would be
12,
13.
Well, it's double
Yeah.
660. 660 is an 8.
13, 20.
660 on the sides and back.
Plus screen.
If we could,
I don't know.
Yeah,
and plus screening.
Plus screening. Yeah.
and erosion control.
Yeah, of course.
What's your recommendation, Daniel?
I would recommend that we do that front side back at a front of a half mile, side back, and side at a quarter mile.
Quarter.
13, 20. And if we could agree on that, I could concede to 330 on cemeteries, state wrecks, and churches.
I just,
To me, 660 is already a vast increase
From what?
from like what you might typically, I guess, I mean, this is York County, so I don't even have to worry about what anyone else is doing, but
Right.
I'm just saying.
660 is a
Like,
2,000.
we're not talking about heat at all at that
reduction
point.
from
We're not talking about
what
heat or
was
anything at
proposed.
all at that point, because the heat stuff, that's completely taken care of. There's no measurable difference at all. Once you get beyond any of these distances that we're talking about. And then with screen in there, that would reduce it even more.
You guys are talking about the property line as well, right?
Yeah, we're just doing property line for simplicity across the board.
Because somebody's property line could be, this is just my thought, half an acre away from their house. And then you're asking for another quarter of a mile
Nope. Half,
or a half mile, sorry. Quarter of a mile would be the side
Sides.
and the
And
back.
we're only talking about non-participating.
well,
Well,
Dwellings.
currently,
Correct.
I still feel that these are good projects and everything Joe says is correct. A homeowner can sign off on it and lessen their, I don't want to leave within a half mile of my house. I don't care what anyone says or. I don't. I look out the front and like watching my cows across the road.
Mhm.
My kids love playing in the backyard. We work on the sides of both sides of our house. I don't want within a half mile of any of that. Just,
that's why
I know
the,
you guys know that's where I'm at.
that's why the signing off thing doesn't actually do anything though. You know that, right? Because,
Well,
you don't
it-
want them there. Then the signing off thing, like, what's the point of, you can't rely on that is what I'm saying.
Joe, there's people that sign off on livestock facilities that are within this all the damn time. If you
I'm
like,
saying you
if
can't
you're one
rely
of
on
the people
that.
that like solar, you'd sign off for you'd sign it for your neighbor, wouldn't you, if they wanted solar?
Maybe, yeah, probably. It depends. If it was a half mile, then maybe.
Maybe. Jesus, Joe. Wow.
Doesn't really matter if I like solar or not, right? It's just about the
And I think
regulations, if it's reasonable to them or not.
what you're saying, Andy, is absolutely true in every aspect. I absolutely agree with you. And hopefully, when I've said this before, it's understood, if you want not to see certain things on the other side of the fence, you should own it. You know, you really should own it to control more so of it. Reasonable setbacks, yeah, I agree. Is there, if you're wanting a quarter,
Hmm.
could you live with a quarter
All the way
all
around.
the way around?
I just really like that set in the front and having that half mile.
Because, you know, then that's really the last piece.
Right.
Because the others are gonna fall into place. Because
Yeah,
we're not talking about that many places out there. There are platted subs, our churches, our
Right.
schools, our state rec areas, they're just non-existent in Will County. You know, not non-existent, but there's not very many, so it's really just the last piece right there. And we're close. We're close.
hmm
Getting closer.
Because I can't remember how many non-participating dwellings we're talking about.
Yeah.
But it's not 50.
It's not 50. It's more than 10.
Could be 50, it could be
Right.
75, it could be 100,
Right. This is
depending on
true.
how we zone it, depending on what Pandora's box we want.
Right. Right. It's true. There are that
I mean,
in the whole
we-
county. There's
You have
There's
to
already
always
talk of
consider-
Xterra wanting to come to the Benedict area.
And those landowners control that. You know, they control whether it comes in or not.
right. But to that point, I think that we as commissioners have to decide what. I mean, if we allowed all the landowners to say, "Well, let's put solar on everything," York County dies.
So then
And
let's
so-
ban it.
Yeah,
I'm
if
going
that's how
with
you
that.
believe,
Let's
then
ban it then. I mean, really,
Right.
because we're,
That's what I'm saying.
Understand.
I don't think that's true at all.
You don't think that if every acre in York County was solar panels, York County would
No, I don't think
die?
That's not what we're saying. We're not bringing solar in. We're just deciding whether or not we should allow it or not. Like, what should the regulations be on it?
Right.
It has nothing to do, like, yeah, it's just whether or not we should reach in there and say, no, you cannot put that on your land. That's all it is.
Right, and what we're doing here is saying, yes, you can put it on your land, but in certain areas,
That's
Well,
which is
throughout
no
ag-
different than any other.
throughout ag, just abiding by the setbacks.
Yeah, you have to abide by the setbacks that we, if we can come to an agreement on this.
I would guarantee if we had quarter mile setbacks on large livestock confinements, we would literally have 5x the amount we have today. And mind you, Joe, though each one of those facilities takes one to two people to run, which brings more people, more money, more shopping, and more economic value to our county. But yet, half mile because someone they don't like the smell is okay.
Do we, we've been at this for a couple hours.
Yeah.
Do we want to have Nate write up what we've agreed on?
The notes.
Have internal thoughts and discussions, and then
Bring it back.
bring it back and try and tackle class 4, or do we want to keep tackling class 4?
I think we're in an impasse today.
Do you, any thoughts from your side
I would
on?
always like more time to think.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go back and add the notes to the draft that I think is more concise. So, and then bring it back. I want to follow what the board can come to an agreement on, but that's what I'm gonna keep trying to do. Because I think those other changes should be made.
I would also recommend you go out and drive around the county so you have more of a sense of
Indeed.
what we do. out. As opposed to what you see driving from your house in York to the interstate to Lincoln. So I think you're missing a lot of what goes on in this county that you're representing, so.
I know just to go to town, man.
We have kicked the can down the road
We
so
have.
many times.
We have.
And, yeah,
Mhm.
I'm sorry. We're just.
No, I didn't take it.
It's
So-
gonna, it
Where-
appears to me it's gonna take obviously, we can make a motion to agree or disagree
Sure.
on something.
Right.
We're not adopting anything by a resolution, but it looks to me like it's gonna take that on this last piece,
Right.
Yeah.
you know? So, and we know that one of us is gonna be gone at the next meeting. We
Yep.
know that already,
Right.
which means that this is
Oh,
2 meetings
yeah.
away. And if we're gonna do this, if we're gonna say, give us a little bit more time, I think we should make the commitment that we are gonna make a decision at that next meeting.
Right. Yep.
That-
And
that
I
we're
would
all
agree
together.
with that. Correct. Yep. Yep.
And is
I
that
would
just a
say-
decision on the final setback or a decision about?
I would say that, so, okay, here's kind of where I was going and what I was thinking, knowing that we won't be a full board at our next meeting. Then the following meeting, we would come to a consensus of what feels is the for this county. Depending on how drastic that changes from what we had, we would then either set a hearing date
Okay.
for this board to do a public hearing on that document, or we would recommend it to go back to the planning and zoning board
Okay.
to review and
What
bring
the
us
changes
a recommendation. I did have somebody that asked move that direction. If we decide that the planning and zoning board does need to relook at this, would we put a timeline on them and say, hey, we would like a recommendation by X date? I hadn't thought about that, but we heard today about LB 663. That does have timelines in there for some zoning stuff, so it might not be bad if we end up having to go that route, just making a recommendation that we would like to see within 30, 45, whatever the day timeframe would be, so that then we could make that decision.
So we would make, I think that we need to come up with at that next meeting, whatever date it is, the 31st is our next meeting, so it'd be the 14th, obviously, of the next month. At that meeting, then, we would come up with, these are our numbers. And we can, and it appears to me like we're gonna pass that through form of motion. The only time we need to do the resolution is when we adopt
Correct.
it into our
Yep.
book. And so if we come up with that as a motion and set them, and then they can be distributed out, they can be distributed to the Planning and Zoning Commission. And, then that still puts us,
So if that was, what,
it still
April
puts us
14,
mid-summer,
if, worst case scenario, we say,
if we feel like it needs to go back.
we say it has to go back to them, and we give them a month, that would be, we would ask that they'd have us a recommendation by May 5th. We would then need 10 days of publication for a public hearing. So at the soonest would be May 15, May
We have a
18.
meeting on May 12th.
So we could, because we could publish it, I guess, prior to that.
Yes, we could.
So mid-May would be when we were looking at having a
That is
possible
2 months
time
from now.
decision done in the book.
Well,
I,
There's no movement as of yet on the platted subs, churches, schools, state rec.
Nope, not yet.
Right, and the non-participating dwellings, those,
Well, I know
Right.
the non-participating dwellings
Right.
are not.
well, I mean,
There's no agreement.
Because you know, everything we're saying today is being taken in.
Yep.
And even though Melanie isn't here, she's
Yep.
watching, she's gonna write, so these numbers are gonna be out there.
Yep.
You know, obviously. Is there anything there? You know, the churches, schools and recs, can we say,
oh, I see, you,
you know, Andy brought up on the schools, you know, I mean, can we agree on kind of that as 660 or whatever that number is, churches and state recs? Or are we holding those back to see where the other ones go?
right. Right or wrong, I'm using that as
Yeah,
bargaining
you
power.
say we, but.
Um, I mean, personally, I can only speak for myself. I would be willing to go to a half mile front yard, a quarter mile back and side, and then go to the 330 for the churches, cemeteries, and state
We're talking about
recreations.
non-participating dwellings, and then
Yes.
on the others, what is your number?
The which
On the,
churches,
yes,
cemetery, 330. I would concede to 330 there if we can.
if you can come up with the other,
Yes.
okay.
And do the schools at 660 in screening?
If everybody's all on board with that, that's fine.
Andy, is that what you had thrown out before? Did you have, I'm sorry.
660 on schools, 330 on everything else, half mile on non-participating dwellings.
What about platted?
Platted, I'd probably be at a half mile as well.
Just to be clear, are Andy and Daniel in agreement on the non-participating dwelling?
No.
I think no. Okay.
And Andy would like to see that
I
stay,
thought I heard different. I just wanted to make sure.
which I would like to see that as well, but
You're trying to.
the votes
consider-
aren't there, and so I'm trying to figure out how we can make that work.
Right's right and wrong's wrong, though.
Sorry, I'm just taking all these,
Mhm.
notes, trying to get it down. And it's platted subs, we really didn't
We haven't talked about that.
talk about that. Very, once again, a very small.
No,
small-
just in the spirit of compromise, I mean, if we could agree on all those others, I would go a half mile on platted subdivisions.
The spirit of
Or,
compromise?
quarter mile,
Those are
sorry.
what?
I wanted to cut it in half.
Yeah.
Hey, people bite, you know.
True. No. Hey. I figured you said something you didn't mean to.
I think I got everything. Nate, did you have pretty good notes?
I think so.
Okay,
Got about 3 pages of Word documents.
okay, all right. I have some, we can compare them also. Or I think I've got everything written down.
I think for today, that's where we're gonna have to be and know that we're not, this will not be, do you know 100% positive that you will not be here or not?
90%, but not 100. I mean,
Right,
we just
exactly.
don't
You
know when the surgery
We can't
is
count on
scheduled.
it,
So
Yep.
what can I be
Yep.
away for that time?
Correct, okay. So I was gonna, at this point, it looks like solar zoning discussions will not be on the agenda for the 31st.
I'm sorry,
That's all right.
but thank you.
That's a sigh of relief.
Can we just
You wanna
leave it on
leave it
there,
on there
just in
and
I
then-
think we'll leave it on there. and
Just in case.
Deb, if you
Let-
can let
let's-
Daniel know.
Let's change
I will
this.
as soon as I hear from the hospital.
Well, we can always table it till the next
Exactly.
meeting. It's not
So-
like,
So just so it's out there, solar zoning will be on the agenda. However, if Commissioner Robertson is not with us, we will table. Does that sound
That sounds fair.
like a good
Yes.
statement?
Yes.
Cool.
Shouldn't do it without.
Just for the record, I don't mind if you vote without.
Okay, we have been at this. We do have, let's see, we've got that. We did have, we need to take up Vanguard, and then we have an executive session. Real quick, any committee reports? Anybody have anything they want to share?
I mean, we've been doing the EM. And
Yep.
we had another meeting again last week, and we need to come to a conclusion on that also. Other than that, it's just normal. We do have a Central District NACO meeting this week. And it was brought up by Caleb this morning about LB 663. LB 663 is under the watchful eye of NACO, who we belong to. NACO has been advertising for a steering committee to put these things out. I've been in contact with John Cannon. I would like to talk to him a little bit more in person about what that steering committee will entail. So that's a possibility that I'll ask to be on that committee to help roll these things out. So Caleb, just so you know, there is things going on behind the scenes. That's why we pay a lobbyist firm to look out for us, to help educate us and different things like that. So if they end up on that committee, I look forward to visiting with you just a little bit more, hopefully, in that case. So that's most of what I have.
Okay,
to say.
perfect.
You talked about my PACE meeting, so
Yep.
that pretty much was there.
Very good.
I have Blue Valley Community Action Board meeting this evening. And then Southeast Nebraska Development District is meeting on Thursday this week. So not yet, but I will have reports next time.
Mainly roads again. Ashley, who was here presenting earlier, attended a training to get her road superintendent certificate. She said that was very, very good training, very eye-opening. So new road grader showed up this morning. We do have another road grader that's down with a major engine issue, so I'm gonna keep driving to the point of seeing if a lease program is something more beneficial, because that looks to be another $13,000 to $25,000 bill on that piece of equipment that's 3 years old or 4 years old, something in that neighborhood. Other than that, we are looking for a member for our dirt crew, potentially a lead for that crew. So that, if it's not posted, will be shortly. So that's really what I got.
YCBC annual banquet is on Thursday night. Anything else? Okay. I did get word from Kirk. He would like us to postpone action on the commercial appraisal agreement until our March 31st meeting. So if I could have a motion for that.
So moved.
Thank you.
Second.
Perfect. Any discussion? Roll call.
Bowman,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Robertson,
Yes,
Obermeyer.
Yes.
And Groves.
Yes. All right, at this time, that takes us through the agenda. I would ask for a motion to go into executive session with the public defender for needless harm to an individual.
So moved.
Second. And I will not be restarting the live after this. So.
Thank you. Perfect. Roll call, please.
Bowman,
Yes.
Burgess.
Yes.
Robertson,
yes.
Obermeyer,
Yes.
and Groves.
Yes.